Welcome to this edition of Diligence Inside Europe's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, and I'll be your host for today's show. We're going to be talking about Spencer Stuart's 2020 Germany Board Index, Changes in the Boardroom. And joining me as my guest is Ralf Landmann, who's the managing partner in Germany and the board practice leader for Spencer Stuart. Welcome, Ralf.
Thank you very much for having me, TK.
First of all, I think it would be good if we tell our audience a little bit about the Germany Board Index.
Oh, sure. Well, our board index has become, TK, if you will, an institution as a source for all board-related matters in Germany. We developed it since 2012, so this is now 8 years. And we cover a sample of 68 listed companies in German Aktiengesellschaft. It is all the DAX 30 companies, plus 38 companies drawn from the M-Dax, S-Dax and Tec-Dax indices. And all these corporations, and I think this is important to our viewers, they all maintain, with one exception, a dual board system where both the executive and non-executive boards have their own legal standing.
It's always unique about Germany and their board system. But certainly we have always enjoyed reporting on the board index globally with Spencer Stuart. So it's a pleasure to be doing the Germany one as well. So that being said, tell us about some of the highlights that you observed out of the this year's board index.
Glad to do so, TK. So please let me highlight 2 points which are important and then give you some details. One, and I think that's very important, we have a new decision by the cabinet, the federal cabinet, leading to new legislation in Germany. The federal government wants to bring more women on executive board level of large companies and with binding guidelines. That's number one, and I will go into that later. And number two is diversity of thought in terms of gender diversity and foreign appointments is improving in Germany, helped by the required quotas, both on non-executive and executive board level. To the point, indeed, we have a new cabinet decision leading to new legislation in Germany, and this does get things moving. As I said, the government wants to bring more women into the executive board levels, boards of large companies, with binding guidelines. If your company is listed, co-determined, has more than 2,000 employees and has 3 or more board members, you've got to have at least one woman on the executive board, at least one. If we look at corporate Germany at the moment and our Germany board index, that affects today about 70 companies. 40 of them already fulfill that quota, companies like Allianz, Daimler, Deutsche Telekom, Fresenius, and more, while 30 do not yet have a woman on the executive board today. I think we have to be very clear, this law will have a very strong impact over time, and this is on top of minds of everybody. That's the one thing. The other point was, as I said, diversity of thought. In terms of gender diversity and foreign appointments, that is both luckily improving. And this will also gain, I believe, further momentum. Of course, helped gender-wise by the required quotas on both non-executive and executive board level. To put some color into that, let me give you some details. And I'm afraid, DK, a lot of numbers, but they give you the direction. If we look on chairs, we now have 5 chairwomen, 2 more than 2 years ago. So these are with Arial Bank, Brenntag, Henkel, SGL Carbon, and Zalando. That is, if you see that in comparison, 7%. If you put this in perspective, we have 20% in Italy or Norway, or just 5% in the UK. So this is where Germany is, 5 chairwomen. If you go further down to non-executive boards, in almost all non-executive boards, we have now 30% of the seats by women. For instance, with SAP, or 50% with companies like Infineon. So that's improving. On CEOs, we now have 2 female CEOs coming from 0. And one is with an industry icon like ThyssenKrupp. So that's a sign. Again, if you compare this with the UK, we have 2 CEOs in Germany on the FTSE 250 companies, there are only 5 companies with a woman as a CEO. And on executive boards, basically a third of executive board members are female. That's doubling in the past 8 years, and this is just on benchmark with the UK. Now, I know this has been these were a lot of numbers, TK, but to recap, the number of chairwomen in Germany is up, the number of female CEOs is up, 2 from 0, and a third of executive board members are female. Now that is one part, and now I come to Germany as a export country. As much as we have room in Germany for improvement gender-wise, we also have, and especially as an export-strong nation, definite room for improvement with regards to appointing non-Germans. And today, 13% of chairs are foreign, with companies like Infineon or Siemens. That's 13. Denmark is at 36, France at 21, and a third of our non-executive board members are foreign, and a third of our executive board members are foreign. A lot of numbers, but in essence, TK, we're moving, albeit slowly, and we're getting better, and we think it will be accelerated, also helped by the new cabinet decision. We will be tracking this very carefully, and will do our bit to bring more women and non-Germans into senior positions.
So we certainly know that diversity is not unique to Germany. I mean, almost every country that, when you look across the globe, diversity is a major, major issue. And that is further spurred by the pressure from institutional investors. So I would say that all countries are finding themselves in a situation where they've got to continue to work on building their diversity numbers. So Germany is no different. I did think it was interesting when I read the index, Ralf, that I noticed that in the results that German companies have one of the lowest percentages of all the European countries when it comes to having independent third parties facilitate board evaluations. So can you give us any perspective to that on why Germany's numbers would be so low relative to basically what is a best practice on, every third year or so having third-party facilitators?
Yeah, TK, spot on. First to put it straight, all boards covered in the German board index do carry out board reviews. So that is one thing. And in that they follow the German corporate governance codex. But the codex does not make any statements how such an evaluation should look like or how often it should be carried out. This is at the full discretion of the respective company. And involving an external consultant remains the exception, but 17% of the surveyed companies, they do engage external support. These are the bigger ones, Allianz, Daimler, Lanxess, and Bayer. The others simply want to avoid the greater effort, and they conduct external board reviews less frequently and prefer internal, mostly questionnaire-based survey. So it is a question of effort and effort you would like to take.
I get that. I get that there's a cost. I get that there's an ease to handling that internally. At the same time, I understand that it can be a little skewed by internal influences. And that's why sort of the standard across the globe is periodically bringing a third party in so you can take any biases out. And also so you can make sure that maybe in this case, the chairman or the head of the nominating committee isn't part of the problem, okay, that's doing the evaluation. So anyway, that's just something to make a little point of, and something to watch going forward and see if of institutional investor pressure starts to change that anyway within the Europe system. So we have about a minute left, Ralf. Anything else that you thought was key and worth mentioning?
Yeah, TK, what we found is that we see a trend. We looked at the numbers and we saw a trend to a general downsizing of executive or management boards. So they simply get smaller. And we were looking at the reasons, and we found three or four. And one is they want to realize efficiency gains, being faster and more agile. It is also triggered by the advance of younger, smaller companies with a high market cap. And sometimes it's simply in reaction to crisis. So it is quite noticeable that the size of management boards is going down. And maybe this will also have an impact on how decisions are made and how fast they are made or how quickly they are made.
We've only been able to scratch the surface of everything that's sort of included. There's some very interesting numbers in the index. Where can people get a copy of the results or the full report?
Well, thank you, TK. We have board indices for all major markets globally, and you can all find them on our website, spencerstuart.com/boardindex, and on our German spencerstuart.com website. And it's pretty unique. There you can compare board by board, country by country, company by company. It's a very deep, rich resource of data for all aspects of non-executive and executive boards in Germany and worldwide.
I know it's a great resource for us, and this just adds to the resources that are available to people to look at. So we appreciate Spencer Stuart always taking this deep dive. And Ralf, I want to thank you for taking the time to update us on Germany Board Index, and appreciate your contributions.
Thank you so much, TK. Greetings from Frankfurt.
And that will conclude this edition of Inside Europe's Boardrooms. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again soon when we take another look at an important topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.